Now for our feature story of the day. Mark Moss on Bitcoin adoption, freedom, and Bitcoin crossing the coveted $1 million milestone. Let's break this baby down, shall we? So yeah, Mark has been championing benefits of Bitcoin to anyone who will listen since 2016. And here's some quotes from what he had to share. He was also at the Abu Dhabi, event recently at the UAE for the Bitcoin MENA conference. And here's what he shared. I started a business in 1999. At the height of the dot-com boom. That crashed. I started another business in 2001. 2001. An e-commerce business, and it wasn't easy, he laments. It was a terrible timing. Everyone laughed at me and said no one would ever buy anything online. I built that up and had a big exit on it. Now, what brought him to Orange County for this conference? He says, I'm an educator and content creator. I'm also a partner at a Bitcoin venture capital fund. So we invest in the businesses building on and around the Bitcoin ecosystem. I also have a new company that just went public in Canada called Matador. And that's running a MicroStrategy play with Bitcoin as a balance sheet asset and investing through the Bitcoin layer 2 space. So I am actively educating, investing in a space to try to build the world that I want to see. In 2017 and 2018, we were competing for the layer ones, Ethereum, Cardano, Litecoin, Neo. Well, Bitcoin won that. So then the crypto narrative went to DeFi. We all know it's decentralized finance, and that, fell apart. Then crypto went to NFTs, and, those Bored Ape Yacht Club monkeys are not quite worth what they once were and fell apart. And now it's the meme coins. No one's pretending the world's that's world-changing tech. He also says, I think the stables lead to that as well. Eventually, people get used to having a wallet and transferring digital assets, but then they wonder why their US dollar stable coins buy them fewer goods and services and why Bitcoin buys them more. And I think eventually it all sort of funnels over. That's right. Bitcoin is mathematically guaranteed to increase your purchasing power, and the dollar has the polar opposite effect as pretty little money printer go brr. He also says, when you start to understand money, you understand that if printing money made people wealthy, why don't we just print a lot more? Money has to have a true cost of capital. So gold, for example, I have to buy land and get equipment, spend energy and capital to get the gold. With Bitcoin, new coins are only released if you spend the money to do the work to get them. So the capital has to have a true cost. You can't just print money out of thin air. Otherwise, we'd all be rich. Exactly. Now, the way an S-curve works is the time it takes to get to 10% adoption, and it's the same time it would take to get to 80, 90%. So you can see that second phase between 2020 and 2030 outlined in this chart on your screen, where we get the most growth. We had retail adoption, which brought Bitcoin to 1.2 trillion between 2010 and 2020, when the institutional adoption, the 90%, will come. I think one big misconception is people think that for Bitcoin to get to 1 million or 10 million per coin, then that means that fiat is worthless and now it's $1 million for a gallon of gas. But that's absolutely not true. Airbnb takes a little bit from the hotels. It doesn't mean hotels go away. Just like Uber continues to get more and more from taxis, Bitcoin is not taken away from the dollar. Bitcoin is taken away from the other store value assets: gold, equities, bonds, and real estate. Bitcoin could grow to $21 trillion, referring to the market cap, by 2030, just 5 years out, which means 1 million per Bitcoin. But it doesn't mean all these other assets just go away. It is on par with gold. It is taken a little bit from bonds, a little bit from money, and just a little bit from the equities. And you can see the phases there. And if we fast forward to 2050, Bitcoin becomes the second biggest asset class. But it doesn't mean the other asset classes go away. By 2050, I believe all the store value assets will be priced in Bitcoin instead of US dollars. And then 1 Bitcoin will be worth 1 Bitcoin instead of 100,000 or 1 million. And that's the bigger picture. We need to stop fascinating over the fiat equivalent of the Bitcoin and see the bigger picture. 1 Bitcoin will always be equivalent to 1 Bitcoin, even 50 years from now, 100 years from now, 1,000 years from now. You feel me? He says that Gresham's law states that bad money drives out good money. So an example is in the US. Up to 1965, quarters and dimes were made of pure silver. After 1965, they started making them out of junk metal. You can't find a pre-65 quarter and dime in circulation anymore. And if you did, you wouldn't spend it because it's now worth $4. So you'd save it. The bad money drove out the good money. The pre-65s are out. So I will always want to use fiat and store my Bitcoin. Precisely. You spend the fiat monopoly money, which could be printed out of thin air because you can't save in it. Those who save in fiat, what do we call them, folk? We call them poor. So we store our value in thy biddy, which is mathematically guaranteed to increase your purchasing power. He also says the new administration, referring to the Trump admin, will definitely be bullish for the industry. It is not really that Bitcoin that was on the ballot. That was really on the ballot. It was freedom. The freedom to choose how you want to store your money and how you want to transact your money. Preach. He says RFK said he would do it, and he is now in the Trump administration. Trump said he would do it. We have a red Republican House, Senate, and presidency. We already have the bill that's been submitted to Senator Lummis. It has to be approved. Maybe it fails and they'll resubmit it, but I would say in the next 24 months that goes through, referring to Bitcoin National Strategic Reserve for the United States of America. And he also said last year the banks tried to overturn the SEC rule called SAB 21, which prevents banks from being able to custody the biddy. It got to President Biden and he vetoed it. Boo. So we know they want to. They also tried to overturn it and Biden vetoed it. Boo. I am guessing as soon as Trump takes over, they'll resubmit it and it will get approved. It is good times, he beams. I am optimistic. I am very, very optimistic. So there you have it. Crypto bros. Doing to doing, doing, doing. Welcome everyone to the Q&A segment of the live stream. Bitcoin's still doing its thing as we continue to live the American dream. Welcome, family. There's only 21 million and at least 2 million are lost. Yeah, I think there's 4 or 5 million lost. Right? So meaning there'll only ever be 14, maybe 15, 16 million, if you're lucky, Bitcoin in circulation, making it that much more scarce. The only finite, limited supply form of money, the only finite, limited supply commodity to ever exist in human history, thy biddy. Stack it accordingly, family. And welcome everyone to the Q&A segment of the live stream.
But soon they did pause to applaud the 100K. Puerto Rico bound, the dragon wings rested, and they were taking it easy on a private jet. Whoa, underdawning in Puerto Rico. Then they got back to work. You can't stall or tame a Bitcoin dragon. A number 10 mountain bird dragon. Whenever back down, a CNA dragon will always stand its ground, breathing fire to protect the house, the hodl house.